Good afternoon. Welcome back from a quick turnaround and break from our last presentation. The name of our next presentation is Existing First Nation Regional Education System Models, and Jordan Lester will be giving that presentation. Jordan is a partner at Cheadle's in Thunder Bay. He represents a wide range of First Nations and education organizations. He has been part of NAN's education jurisdiction team since 2019. Jordan?
Thanks so much, Jocelyn, and thank you everybody for having me today. So as Jocelyn mentioned, I've been with the negotiation and education jurisdiction team since 2019. I was brought in by Norm Wesley, and it's been a very interesting process. Very excited to be part of it, and we've done quite a lot of work to where we are today. And one of the projects I was involved in early on was a review of the existing education jurisdiction models that are across Canada, and there are quite a few, and they're actually significantly different. And the idea was to take a look at those structures, get a sense of really what's out there, and then basically cherry pick some of the better ideas that we think might work for NAN communities. So I had 15 minutes to do the presentation at the start, and we're behind schedule, so I think I have about 10 minutes. Jocelyn said she's just going to cut off my microphone at 2:10, so what do you say, just throw on the snorkel and mask and dive right in. So I'm going to do a screen share, and we do have some materials. Just bear with me for 1 minute here. Sorry, just we're this far into COVID, and I still get all confused on the Zoom systems. Okay. There we go. You should have in front of you, maybe Jocelyn, if you want to give a thumbs up, the model review presentation there. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to be looking at taking us through 3 different systems. So the first one's going to be the Mi'kmaq system out in Nova Scotia. The next is the First Nation Education Authority in BC, and then the Anishinaabe education system that was created in 2018 in the Anishinaabe Nation. So again, the first one is the Mi'kmaq, also known as MK, and this is a model that's really the guiding light, the shining beacon for education jurisdiction across Canada. They're the first ones out of the gate, and it's been such an incredible success story on so many levels: preservation of language, of culture, high school graduation rates on par with the provincial average, attendance rates on par with the national average. And as I understand, there's been quite a few students who have actually gone on to post-secondary education, obtained their bachelor's of education, and gone back to actually teach for the schools in the system. So an incredible story, and really something that I think a lot of the communities in NAN can also hope to strive for. So this was created in 1999 with the Mi'kmaq Education Act, which was a federal law created on behalf of the MK and the 9 participating First Nations. So under this structure, the MK, Kinamatnaway, administers the jurisdiction agreement, known as final agreement, and deals with things like allocation of funding to communities and addresses common issues, and does this through its Center of Excellence. In terms of structure, there's the chief from each community holds a vote on the MK board of directors, and there's also working groups that are established in the community to help address recurring issues or problems. So this is actually something that would go towards what the Deputy Grand Chief Narcisse said this morning about how the system should have solutions that are coming from the communities, and this is a very important principle of what we've been trying to achieve with the NAN model as well. This idea that communities are in control, and that there's a direct line of communication from the communities to the different oversight bodies. Education staff from each community attend working group meetings and provide a local education voice, and that's to the advice of the board of directors. So again, it allows for greater participation from the communities. Sorry, I jumped ahead there. So again, nine communities, I believe, signed on initially. 3 more have been added since the initial signing. So I believe there's currently 12 member communities for MK. And MK, this itself, this oversight body doesn't actually have the power to create education laws. It has to work with the participating communities. So again, this is an idea that's been incorporated into what we're doing with the NAN final agreement. This idea that creating those local education laws is going to be done at the community level, and that basically gives direction from or to the different, the regional aggregates and all the way up to the what's known as the territory-wide education body, which is something I believe Derek is going to be presenting on tomorrow. Which make sure you're there for that, because always a good one with Derek presenting. MK has, again, the working groups, and this is a good example of the community participation in action. And the working groups basically allow for experts, again, to come in and work out the different issues that may be happening at a community level. The next model, we're going to go from the East Coast out to the West Coast. So this is the First Nation Education Authority out in British Columbia. So in 2006, the Education Jurisdiction Framework Agreement was signed in BC, establishing the First Nation Education Authority. That set out its powers, duties, and functions. And the purpose of the Education Authority is to provide supports to First Nations who do choose to exercise jurisdiction over education. So the Education Authority can do things like provide templates of education laws in terms of reference and other requirements, other documents, that are required under the agreements, and it only exercises jurisdictions in areas that have been delegated to it by the PFNs, by the participating First Nations. So again, similar to the Mi'kmaq model and similar to the NAN model, there's a focus on communities being in control and delegating the work to whatever other bodies. So participating First Nations who ratify the framework agreement, they may exercise lawmaking authority over a wide range of subjects, but importantly, curriculum development, graduation requirements, teacher certification, and school certification. And under this model, the participating First Nations also maintain the responsibility to ensure the education within their schools meets a standard that allows students to transfer within other schools in the system and also within the provincial education system. This is something that's been adopted as well with the NAN model, this idea of transferring without academic penalties. So having education standards amongst the schools within the system. So let's say a student goes from one community to the other, they can pick up right where they left off. Or if a student chooses to go to a school in the provincial education system, again, there's not going to be academic penalty. There's going to be a standard that's maintained so that basically the schools within the system are to be equal to or better than the schools in the provincial system. In terms of accountability, the Education Authority is accountable to the participating First Nations that collectively govern it, and they have elected representatives on the board. One of the important things for the First Nation Education Authority is the second level services. So this goes through what's called the First Nations Schools Association, and that was created actually prior to the Education Authority. And this is again to help provide programs and services to schools that have or have not formally recognized jurisdiction. And there's also the First Nation Education Steering Committee, and that works with the different bodies to provide those second and third level services to First Nation schools to support provision of quality education services. So similar to the NAN structure, PFNs maintain control, but there can also be co-management agreements and assistance with the second and third level services. Okay, 3 minutes left, and I have the Anishinaabe education system. So this is, again, I'd say of all the models across Canada, this is probably the one that's most similar to the NAN model. But, similar to Grand Chief Fox's comments not too long ago, he said, there's no one else like us in Canada. It's true, and there are nuanced differences even between the Anishinaabe and the Anishinaabe systems to really accommodate for those differences. Okay, so in 2017, the Anishinaabe Education Agreement was signed, formally recognized jurisdiction over primary, elementary, and secondary education. I believe 23 communities ratified the education agreement when it was signed. So this established the Anishinaabe education system, and it's basically comprised of 3 levels. So you have the participating First Nations, regional education councils. So this is kind of like an aggregate of those communities, and then it goes up to the Kimazuean education body, or the KEB, and that's like the central administrative body, similar to the territory-wide education body, which you'll again hear about tomorrow. In terms of its governance, each member community is represented by appointing 2 members, 2 representatives to the Regional Education Council. And again, there are 4 regional education councils in the AES. And this is a unique structure, and it does allow for the pooling of resources. And I mentioned second level services. So that'd be something like specialists for students with learning disabilities. So instead of a particular school funding that, you might have the regional council or this regional aggregate fund that, so that they can work at a variety of different schools. And it's economies of scale. There's just simply cost savings the more you can aggregate those types of services. In the Anishinaabe education system, member communities can establish an education board or a committee to exercise jurisdiction with respect to education on its behalf. So under a NAN model, there's something similar. You can have the chief and council that administer the school, or you can create a local body who will be tasked with administering the schools. And again, this goes to what Deputy Grand Chief Narcisse said about the solutions coming from within the community. That is a very fast overview of the Anishinaabe system. And again, there's a couple different ones we looked at across Canada. There's the Manitoba First Nation school system, the James Bay, Northern Quebec. We even took a look at the Ontario public education system to see, if there's concepts in that governance model that may or may not work. So what's interesting about the work we've done, and there has been so much that's gone into it over the past couple of years, and in the past 2 years, there's been a couple curveballs thrown at the team, both in terms of global pandemics and Canada changing their lead negotiators and having to come up to speed. And even from before we had Norm Wesley, and then Derek eventually came on to join the team, things kept moving forward still. And there was a lot of work done. We're getting very close. And once that final agreement's ready to go, that's when the real work is going to begin. That's when our team's going to be coming to the communities and finding out what is it that the communities want, what are their needs. And that's going to be a very interesting process to build effectively these education systems for each community, under this framework, using the scaffolding of the final agreement. So I'm already past my time. Thank you, Jocelyn, for not turning off my microphone. I'm sorry if I spoke very quickly, but I wanted to make sure we stay on schedule. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Jordan. That wraps up our session on the existing First Nation regional education system models, which is meant to be an introduction for our panel guests that will be next. So we are going to be taking a break, but before we take a break, we want to show you the play to win code. And the code word for that is region. Please take note of that and enter it during the break. We'll be reconvening at 2:25 for our panel. We'll see you then.